Welcome back. We to preview Monday night's game in the Premier League between Arsenal and Swansea at the Emirates Stadium. Pascal start with the home side, incredible run of form at the moment. They continued that last time out against Hull.
Yeah, it's 9 wins from the last 10 games now, and yeah, it was a pretty impressive win from them. I think Hull, recently they've been pretty good. I think Hull went into that game. I think they've won the last 2 games without conceding, so they've been on a pretty good run of form. But Arsenal, quickly eradicated that. 3 goals in the first half. They ran away with it by half time. They went on to lose the second half 1-0, coming out on top 3-1 winners. But yeah, it was that blistering first half, wasn't it? I think they can count themselves, perhaps a little lucky with the first 2 goals. Sanchez one from the free kick, big deflection, takes it in. Then Ramsey's one as well. Ramsey was impressive in that game. He was getting forward a lot. He's sort of that box-to-box nature. Since he returned from his most recent injuries, hasn't quite looked like the same player that he did sort of last season and at the start of this season. But in that game, he showed pretty good form. Did come off injured though. He's a doubt for this one, so they might be missing him. But I think Ramsey was impressive, and he set up the 3rd goal as well. It was a great pass through to Alexis Sanchez, who ran through on goal, and he just showed his quality, didn't he? I think that was goal number 16 for him this season. He rounded the goalkeeper and stuck it home, and yeah, the game was over by half time, 3-0 for Arsenal, and yeah, they look pretty they were obviously pretty safe for a top 4 finish. Now they've still got a game in hand on everyone else around them in the top, so they look pretty good, and it was another very impressive win from them.
It was another very impressive win. So you mentioned when they're on the table, sitting 3rd at the moment, 11 on points of Manchester City, but you mentioned they have got the game in hand. Obviously City have got a slightly better goal difference, but talking about the games they've got left, they play United away. Obviously that's going to be a massive game, because United will have to, they definitely have to get something from the game if they want to finish in the top 4. Got the game in hand. They play Sunderland at home, West Brom as well, so you're thinking they're probably going to win. If they pick up 7 points, maybe they get a point at Old Trafford, 7 points. Will that be enough to finish second? Possibly. City, though, have got QPR, haven't they, on Saturday, so they could obviously move 3 points clear at that stage, so that's a tough game. But you mentioned obviously they've got the Cup final to come as well. Aston Villa, you mentioned what would be a good season if they finish 3rd and win the FA Cup. It'd be a good season if they finish 2nd and win the FA Cup. I think it becomes a great season, doesn't it? Obviously there was talk of them changing Chelsea a few weeks ago, but they got that draw, didn't they? Chelsea went to the Emirates, got a draw, the 0-0, which ultimately, ended Arsenal's very slim challenge as it was. We mentioned 9 of the last 10. Last season, did okay in terms of, pushing up. They had a big battle with Everton, didn't they, to finish in the top 4, but so comfortable this season and very good form at the moment.
You mentioned last season, they finished 4th last season with 79 points. They got 70 this season with 4 games to go, so they need to get 3 wins and at least a draw or 4 wins, to better last season's total, which you think, if they do that, they'll probably get 2nd place, whereas last season it was good enough for 4th. So it just shows you how different, points hauls can mean in terms of the table, and how many other points teams have got. So in terms of progression, if they win 3, lose 1 of their last 4 games they've got, they're going to finish on exactly the same points as last season. So there hasn't been too much progression, because think back to last season, they were sort of the pace setters, weren't they? In sort of the first half of the season, looking really good, then tailed away. This season they sort of had their good spells and bad spells, but they've never quite been, right up there in sort of the, really at the top. Because Chelsea from day one, they were the ones they ran away with the league early on. So it's not been quite the same this season, but a lot of positives this season. Obviously the signing of Sanchez is the big one. He's, like I said, 16 goals this season. He's fitted into the Premier League just fine, but you wonder where they need to improve. In the summer there's a lot of talk about needing a striker. We said last week about how if they did go for a big striker, say, I don't know, Benzema or someone of that ilk, of that quality, who you'd say is better than Giroud, you wonder, it would be harsh on Giroud to drop him, because I still think Giroud is a very good striker, and the system that Arsenal play, it's a 1-striker system, so if they sign someone who's considered as, a bigger striker than Giroud, then he'd have to drop to the bench, or maybe he'd have to change the formation. So you wonder what Wenger thinks, because you think that Wenger certainly likes Giroud. He's the sort of player that you could imagine Wenger really liking, very good with his back to goal, and he's good at interplay as well, and some games he can be a fantastic finisher. Others, he's had some pretty bad misses this season. There was, I think it was the Manchester United game where he missed a couple of gilt-edged chances which he shouldn't have done. So it'll be interesting to see where they focus this summer. I think the goalkeeper is maybe one. I think Ospina's done well. Obviously, he replaced Szczesny as the number 1 goalkeeper, but I think they probably do need a goalkeeper. I think the 2 they've been linked with, Petr Cech and Iker Casillas. You'd expect both of them would probably improve what they have at the moment. But I think Ospina's done okay. Elsewhere, I think the central defence midfielder area is something to certainly improve. I think Coquelin, since he's come into the team, has been fantastic. I'm always impressed when I watch him, but you think maybe a bigger name player, maybe a sort of a Khedira or someone like that. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But they've played a lot of good football this season, but it's just they haven't quite had that run of wins and consistency throughout the season. But on the whole, if they can finish 2nd and win the FA Cup, like you said, pretty solid campaign.
Probably certainly would be. Going up against the Swansea team in this particular game. Swansea have had a great season, haven't they? You talk about Arsenal obviously are in that race for the top 4, but Swansea were there on the table, and last time out against Stoke, sort of a team that was in and around them, battling for the top 8. You know, they could still finish 7th, which you talk about, but I think they'll finish 8th, and the fact that they beat Stoke last time out was such an impressive win in front of their own fans, and the game itself was tight for long spells. Obviously Stoke went down to 10 men, but the goals, the real quality about the goals, you know, Shelby in there, Shelby's playing really well at the moment. I like him as a player. His attitude at times maybe, you know, calling to question at Liverpool, it's a bit too big for him maybe at that stage of his career, but he's playing really well recently. They've got Montero up there who scored the header, great goal. 1-0, you know, into stoppage time, did look like I was going to finish 1-0, but then they got the second late on, and Shelby setting up Key. I think Key's got 8 goals in the league this season. He's their top scorer. And you talk about how well Swansea had done, and without, obviously they sold Bonnie in January, he was their top scorer, but Sigurdsson's got 6. Gomez is their third top scorer, or 5. So they've got no one that's really, you know, clear. But I think that's what makes a good team. Think about QPR having a player that's a million miles in front, scoring a lot of goals. When you share the goals around, it certainly helps, doesn't it? Obviously Dyer and Routley's plenty of pace in wide areas, on 4 of the last 6 in the league, and there's no reason why they're going to this game fearful of Arsenal.
Definitely not. And you mentioned that, you know, where they are 8th in the table, just 4 points behind Southampton in 7th, and you know, Southampton all season long, they haven't had the best sort of last 3 months in the second half of the campaign, but where Southampton were, you know, real top 4 contenders in the sort of first sort of maybe 2/3 of the season, it hasn't been great of late, but considering they're only 4 points behind Southampton, who they've got a fairly tough run in Southampton, so if Southampton lose say 2 of their last 3, Swansea, if they can finish strongly, there's a real chance that they could get above Southampton into the top 7, which would be an amazing achievement for them. They've already surpassed, you know, they've already broken their record for, you know, Premier League points haul. So, like I said, it has been excellent. Like I said, losing, you know, Bonnie in January, the sort of the way Monk has, you know, the job he's done, pieced the squad together and got them playing good football as well. Very impressive. You look at their fixtures coming up and you think they really do need to spring a couple of big surprises if they are to sort of get above Southampton, because, you know, going to Arsenal here is a very tough game. Then next they host Man City at home, who obviously battling with Arsenal for that second spot in the league, and then they finish with Crystal Palace away. And you know, Palace, we've talked about it so many times. It's one of the tougher places to go in the league. Selhurst Park is, you know, it's always rocking there, and especially as that'll be the final game of the season. So it'll be a sort of not a party atmosphere, but you know, Palace at home on the final day will want to send their fans away with a victory. So it's a tough run in for Swansea, and they have to spring, you know, I'd say 3 surprises. I'd be very surprised if they, to be honest, won any of their last 3 games. I think it's a really tough run in for them, but on the whole, the season has been really good.
It looks like they're going to finish 8th, isn't it? It's 6 points clear in 9th, which is West Ham at the moment, so they're probably going to finish 8th, which is a fantastic season. Tough game, they're going to the Emirates. Can you see them getting anything out of it?
I can't, to be honest. No, Arsenal, we've talked about earlier, 9 wins out of 10, you know, the sort of run of form they're on, and they do look really good. And Arsenal, certainly, they'll want to finish second above City. You know, they, like you said, they sit level at the moment, and as long as they win their game in hand and do better than City in their last 3 games, then they're going to finish above them. And you know, finish above the reigning Premier League champions is a pretty good thing. And you know, the way Chelsea have been this season, it's hard to imagine that Arsenal could finish above Chelsea. So if they can finish second, that'd be good for them. And I think here in this game, they've got to start the game as favourites. I think they'll win 3-1.
3-1, yeah. I'm actually going to go just a bit tighter though, but I'm going to go 2-1. But we'll see Arsenal winning. I don't think I have too many problems. Both see Arsenal winning this one quite comfortably. Thanks for joining us.